Okay, so we're going to be working in Harmony here just to show you how we can quickly thumbnail out some of our work for our flour sack jump here. Okay, so I'm just setting up a basic floor plan here, just a very simple grid, 2-point perspective grid, so I can have my character just jump on that grid. So as you can see here, I've just got a basic drawing layer, and I'm just throwing some quick grid lines out to create a very simple floor. Okay, once I have that done, I'll just throw on a second layer here so that I can start actually drawing the character on top of that. Okay, so I just deleted the actual grid there, just to leave the drawing of the grid underneath so I had something to put my character on top of. Because we do want to try and draw the character in 3-point perspective. Here I'm just getting a very simple light touch brush, and I'm going to just simply be drawing on the drawing layer and just sketching up the basic look and placement of my character. So we want the character to start off just in a very simple resting position here. You want to think about the acting or the performance that you want at the front of the jump here. Okay. You can think about if he's happy, if he's sad, maybe have him stand up like I am here, like he kind of pops up and looks up like, oh, I'm going to do this. So he's kind of got like a happy vibe to him. Give him a little energy and try and get a nice looking pose, and think about the overall kind of timing, and just put the basic extremes down here for your thumbnails. This is the way that I prefer to thumbnail personally. I do like to kind of just do it on a full screen. It doesn't have to be done this way. Obviously, you could just do it on one sheet of paper and kind of work out the basic poses that way. But my preference is to just kind of do it on a timeline, and I can think about my posing and my timing kind of at the same time, to structure my drawings here. Okay, so far you see there I just building up the first few poses. Um, as I think about the acting that I want here, I'm going to have him kind of pop up into a bit of a happy mode and then kind of settle into that. Okay, so once he gets that little kind of pop up and settle, I'm going to have him then come down and start to prepare for the jump. So when I'm going into the jump here, he's going to come down and kind of gear up, so he gains energy, and then he's going to leap into the jump. Okay. Now this is obviously double time here for the video. It's not real time, obviously, because I just want to kind of give you the overall view of how this was done. I did upload a real-time view version of this where you can see the actual timing that I created with my thumbnails. But this just shows you how I turned on the onion skin layers, and I'm just working between my different poses to create the types of poses that I'd like to get with the rig if I can. Now obviously Harmony isn't the only thing that you can use for this. If you have another piece of animation software that you are comfortable with, maybe you have an iPad where you have Procreate Dreams, or you're working on Krita or something that you're more familiar with and more comfortable with, that's perfectly fine. All I'm doing here is using it as a thumbnail tool. Okay, so again, I'm just trying to get his little bum to kind of like go up in the back there, for I can kind of get him gearing up. I do try and think of the volume of the flour sack. I don't want to make him like look like he's growing, so sometimes I'll go and as I'm kind of doing this, he'll kind of grow and shrink a little bit, and I'll go back and I'll do a check, and sometimes I'll readjust some of my sizes and that to make sure that my volumes aren't getting too out of control as I'm kind of going through this action. And this is the way that I do like to kind of just roughly go through and plan out my main thumbnails, just because I find it very easy to quickly get something down, get a nice little action of him jumping up. It takes probably about a half hour to 40 minutes to do this process, and it takes a lot longer to manipulate a rig, right? So as you can see there, I've just noticed that the flour sack seems to be growing a little bit. So what I'm doing there is I'm just going through the drawings and I'm scaling it down a little bit just to try and control some of those volumes in the drawing. Okay, so here I'm starting to think about just going through the basic action of him jumping up into the air. And really, this is just a bouncing ball again, right? So it's really just the same principles that we've already done with bouncing balls in our previous assignments. We're having the flour sack leap up. He's going to stretch out, come into to the upper part of the jump here, have a bit of hang time in the apex of the jump. He bundles up at the top again, right? Because he's kind of lifting his legs up. And then he's going to come back down on the other side, which is basically the ball coming down and stretching into the ground. And we're going to treat this in a very similar way. Right, so here he comes down, he's stretching down into the ground now. Right, I was trying to go for a little bit of a fun leg lifting there as he kind of comes down on one foot. I may or may not stay in that when I go into the 3D blocking, but it's a fun pose and I want to try and get something in there. Okay, so yeah, just like I was talking about the ball when we were doing that, getting the nose of the ball to stretch down to the ground before the rest of the upper body came down. We're doing the same thing here, right? Like I'm stretching the upper body, showing the weight of the ball kind of coming down, hitting the ground, and then the upper body will come down and overlap on top of that action. So we're getting that overlap, follow through, and drag in the upper part of the flour sack to show a sense of movement and weight and overlapping that into the character. Okay, we're using, you see I've got the little ears there. I'm trying to have the ears and the feet come down in specific paths of action, right? So I'm thinking about the way that the path of action is happening between the different elements as they come down and overlap into that final squash position. Okay, and here I'm just doing a simple recovery. So the flour sack is going to land, and then as he recovers, he'll come up to a nice simple stand at the end, and start to relax. Right. So obviously this is double time. It's not real time here, but you can see it's going to have a nice little jump going across the screen. And then what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll just check the timing and the arc's motion and make sure everything is working correctly. Okay, so I've just slowed down the clip here just so you can see a little more about what the timing would be. And you can see that all I'm doing here is getting the extremes, right? So I'm just getting those extreme poses, the little action at the beginning where he kind of lifts his head up. And then he comes down into his squash anticipation, and he overlaps and drags into that squash. And then he does a little stretch up into the air, having the weight of the flour in the bottom of his sack kind of drag at the bottom. He lifts those feet up in the mid position of the apex of the jump, and then he's coming down and landing and overlapping into that relaxed position at the end of the jump. Okay, so once I have those thumbnails done, then I'm ready to export those thumbnails, and I can bring those thumbnails to use in Maya as I start to actually block out my 3D rig. Okay, so now we're in Maya here, and all I've done is I've taken my exported movie and I converted it into a JPEG sequence, and then I just simply brought it in as an image plane into the render view camera that I'm going to be rendering, and I've just shrank it and moved it up into the top corner. Okay, we'll go over image planes as well, just in a separate video, just to make sure you know how to do that. Okay, so here you can see that I'm just starting to go through each individual drawing that I've created in my thumbnails, and going through my rig here, and starting to pose out the rig to match those thumbnails that I've created. Okay, so you want to take your time here, try and build the best pose you possibly can as you build the rig up into matching your drawings. So one advantage of working this way is that you've already thought about the basic timing and posing of your work. So it takes some pressure off trying to do those two things at the same time as manipulating the rig technically, which can sometimes be a little daunting or overwhelming when you're working through your animation. Okay. Also, keep in mind that your rig is not always going to match perfectly to the drawings that you created. So don't worry about if your drawings don't look exactly the way that your rig is looking at the time. Just do your best to create an attractive, good-looking pose as you're kind of working. Okay, so I'm just going from my squash position here, and I'm posing the rig as he's going to be lifting up into the air, stretching up into the air here. Okay, so I'm going to have the character kind of lift up, again, just matching those drawings. I usually do the body first. I will usually grab the waist control or that base control and start to track the overall arc as the character is going through the air with that base control. Okay, and I'll use that as kind of a judgment of how what the spacing is and how high the character is jumping in that, and does it have good spacing control as it's kind of going through the actions. Okay, here I'm just trying to get that look of the feet kind of lifting up under his body as he passes through the top position. Okay, and you can see again, I'm usually flipping back and forth through my poses because I'm really using my eye to see the difference in the posing. I'm not, and this is why I was really pushing this earlier with everybody to avoid just trying to use the graph editor and really focus on training your eye to see the poses in the camera that you're going to be rendering, right? So you want to make sure that the poses that you're creating are working in that view. So that's what I'm doing here is I'm just going through and watching the render cam there and making sure that I get nice lines, passive actions, C curves, S curves, and also getting the proper kind of positioning and spacing from pose to pose as I flip through the drawings here. Okay, you can see how I work is I use a combination of the picker, and I'll go in directly in and select the controls in the viewport as well. Do whatever works for you in that regards. The picker is there to help you, but either way is perfectly fine to work in. If you want to show the NURBS curves in the viewport, the hotkeys Alt-1. If you want to hide them, you can just hit Alt-1 again. It'll hide them out. Okay, so here what I'm trying to do is I'm just building up towards that stretch. So I'm dragging the base of the body over and thinking about how the bottom of the body is going to start to stretch out as it comes down onto that other side of the jump, coming down into the squash. And again, it's very few controls that we're actually having to worry about here, right? It's not a complicated rig. It's fairly straightforward. So you want to try and just start with the main large controls and then work your way out to the feet in that after you get those large controls working. It would be okay to do very little with the feet and the ears during the first pass and just get the body working first. You can always go back in on a second or third pass and rework the ears in that to make the flow better as you kind of work through the animation from pose to pose. Okay, so here I'm just again going through and rejigging that spacing as the body is coming down. Okay. You can see there I was resetting the upper body, and it resets back to 0, so it kind of pops it back to that layout control position, which I don't want. So I have to, yeah, when you're working that, you have to make sure that you don't reset that upper body back to the layout control. Okay, again, just take your time, get nice clean flow lines through your poses. That's what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to work the body so I get that nice clean C curve coming down, and the feet are kind of like reacting and dragging as they're coming down to that final position. So again, one thing that you should notice here is that I don't make play blasts typically while I work, right? Like I'm flipping through looking at one thing at a time. And in this case, I'm looking at the posing, making sure that the posing is matching my thumbnails as best as I can. I will do some adjusting there, right? Like you can see that I've lowered the left foot a little earlier than what the drawings were there, but that's fine. And then I'm also going through and I'm just making sure that the spacing between each pose is adjusted properly. And the third kind of pass that I do there is looking at the overlap and drag and follow through in the posing as well, right? So there I'm getting the character down for the that one foot. It's going to hit the ground first. So the character's right foot's going to come down. It's going to kind of hit the ground, and the rest of the character will come down and collapse into that as he follows through into that into that squash position. Okay, so overall, like it shouldn't take you too long to just block out the main poses like this. I would say if you're working on this for maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours, that should really be all it takes to get the main blocked poses of your animation in here based on the thumbnails that you do. And again, the thumbnails don't have to be anything that's crazy as far as details or worrying about the look of the flour sack drawings. That's not what's important. The thumbnails are really to make sure you're going in the right direction as far as your timing and your overall pose look and feel. And just make sure you're getting solid poses in your character with good S curves, C curves, etc. Right? Like it doesn't depend on your drawing skills necessarily to do well in that regard. It's a tool that you use to get the flow and the performance kind of nailed down. Okay, so here I'm just having the stretch on the upper body, and then it's going to kind of push down and squash into that final pose. Okay, so here I'm just having the character squash in to that final position. So he's going to kind of using the middle control there just to kind of control the flour in the bottom of the sack as he squashes in. I have to get those ears dragging back. Okay, you can see that the arc that I have on the body there, you can see that I'm trying to control a nice clean arc up through the jump there, and then as he comes down the upper body and that the drag follows that arc. Okay, just like the pendulum and that as we were looking at before, you got that arc that you have to follow through the action. Okay, so I'm just getting the character into his final pose here. And again, this is all just in step mode. right? So nothing is set into spline here. I can still do timing changes if needed very easily because all of my keys are on just single frames. So I can very easily go into the dope sheet if I need to and adjust things. Now this speed here is in double time as you're looking at here, so it's a little quicker than normal. You can look at the real speed version to see what I ended up with that I uploaded earlier, but this is kind of just showing you how I can get to that point fairly quickly by just mimicking what I've done in my thumbnails already. Okay, and here the character is just standing up into his final position, and he's going to kind of come up to the top and then recover and relax as he's coming up and standing up. Make sure that your feet aren't sliding on the ground as well. As the character lands, you can set those feet back into world space so they don't skate around the floor. Nothing wrong with that. But you want to have them in hierarchy space as he's jumping through the air, so you're not trying to drag them at the same time that you're dragging the lower body. Okay, so the feet or the hip area of the feet stay in hierarchy mode in the air, and then world mode as they're on the ground, for they stay locked in place. Okay, and then we're getting pretty close to the end here now. Just basically building out that final pose of him standing comfortably on the ground. He's still coming up into his final position here, so a little bit of ear drag in that as he's coming up. Okay, I'm just keying those upper ears, having them settle back up into the final position. Right, and I won't have him stop dead at the top. I'll have him kind of come up and overshoot down a little bit as well, just so he settles in properly. Okay, so we've just kind of come up to the final kind of pass here, just going through the final drawings and making sure that the feet and the ears drag and overlap properly. But we're getting pretty close to the basic block done on this pose, or on this pass, I should say. And again, this is still all in stepped, okay? It's just getting those basic blocked poses in, reworking some of the feet lifts in that there, as you can see, to make sure that I get what I want. Okay, so here we are just kind of wrapping up the final piece here. And we've just basically mimicked what we've done in the thumbnails, and we just got him doing his final blocked pose there. Okay, so there's definitely more refinement to do. We'd still have to go in here and do a little refinement on the blocking plus, but this gives us our basic pass to move forward with for our setup and blocking. All right, we'll end it there.